Why are you and I so different? Why can't I become anyone known? Why can't I leave anything behind? Why on earth was I even born? Tell me, Yoriichi. In Demon Slayer, we get a lot of the backstories for the Upper Moon demons. Akaza's is a bit emotional and it shows him being more of a corrupted and manipulated individual rather than a monster. Doma is the exact opposite. We can see that he never really cared about humans and always pitied them. The most interesting backstory of the big three Upper Moon demons is definitely Kokushibo, as we get to see his past with the greatest swordsman of all time, Yoriichi. We can see how jealousy, envy can shape a person into doing things they never even wanted to do in the first place. Today, I wanted to bring light on Demon Slayer's phenomenal writing and represent one of the greatest representations of envy in manga history, Kokushibo, the Upper Moon 1 demon. So, before I get into Kokushibo's past, I need you to understand that this is a bit confusing. These flashbacks happen while Kokushibo is fighting the Hashira in the Infinity Castle. Though I will not be going into depth about the fight, it is important to understand why these things are happening and why he's saying these things. Also, while reading the manga, these flashbacks are out of order, but for you as the viewer, you're lucky. I will be putting these in chronological order for you to truly understand the depth and the journey of Kokushibo's envy. It's only a little bit confusing because some of these flashbacks happen within flashbacks, as in teenage Kokushibo would flashback into childhood Kokushibo in a flashback of teenage Kokushibo. Do you see how that's a bit confusing? It would truly mean the world to me if you guys can like and subscribe to this video. I've spent a lot of work on moving and getting up here, and there is a very big surprise at the end. Let's start. Before becoming Kokushibo, he was born as Michikatsu Sugikuni. Michikatsu and Yoriichi were born as twins, but their destinies couldn't have been more different. From birth, Yoriichi was labeled as weak and fragile because he was born with the DemonSlayer mark, which made him an outcast in his own family. The fact that twins were labeled a bad omen in older days of Japan did not help the case. This is because it led to issues about who would inherit the throne. Being born with the DemonSlayer mark made him labeled as hideous, and Yoriichi was supposed to be ordered for execution, but his mother wouldn't allow it. So his father settled to have him sent away once he hit 10 to the monk's temple. As a result of this, Michikatsu was favored and even destined to become a wonderful samurai. Despite being siblings, the two lived completely different lifestyles, down to the food, clothes that they wear, and houses that they slept in. Michikatsu always saw his brother as weak and pitied him, because every time he saw Yoriichi, he was clinging on to his mother's left side. Fun fact, people often thought Yoriichi was deaf because he never even spoke, until he was 7, and the first time that he spoke was to ask his brother a question. Brother, is it your dream to become the strongest samurai in the country? If so, then I'll become the second strongest samurai in the country. This false pride given to Michikatsu often made him think of his brother as lesser than him, so the thought of Yoriichi even entering that world of samurai training alongside his brother made him feel disgusted. A samurai has to fight with his life on the line. A little boy who runs to his mother to cling her side every time he sees her could never be a samurai, Michikatsu thought. And this is a thought he would actually come to regret. After that statement, Yoriichi started to watch his brother during his trainings, even so much so that the instructor that was training Michikatsu provided Yoriichi with a small weapon and taught him the basic stance so he could begin training as well. And what would later be recognized as the first instance of sun-breathing usage, Yoriichi strikes down his instructor in an instant, something Michikatsu couldn't even do. Matter of fact, he never even landed a blow on him once. So even though this instructor was sent home with bruises the size of fists, these cuts could not compare to the cut of Michikatsu's pride. The child of prophecy was marked as the wrong brother, and that mistake was put on display. Yoriichi then states that he didn't enjoy hurting somebody else and he would never wield a sword again. But in his brother Michikatsu's eyes, all that he can see is someone who can have his dream but doesn't even have the desire for it. This awoken a stage of envy in Michikatsu's heart that would never be satisfied. The boy that he pitied his whole life was clearly stronger than him, and his only desire was to hang out and fly a kite with his brother. But the downfall of Michikatsu wouldn't stop. His father was notified about the trainings and their positions were swapped. Michikatsu would be sent away to the temple and Yoriichi would be the successor. But unfortunately, that night, tragedy struck as both of these boys lost their mother. Michikatsu was notified by Yoriichi knocking on the door in grievance of their mother. In an act of kindness, Yoriichi shows a flute Michikatsu once gifted to him and tells him that he'll cherish it wherever he goes. And with that sentence, he was off to the monk's temple. But you may be a bit confused because I just told you that everything was swapped. But it's revealed that in the reading of Michikatsu's deceased mother's diary, Yoriichi realized that he would be the successor, so he decided to leave the house earlier than planned so Michikatsu's dream could still be alive. Furthermore, it's revealed that Yoriichi actually knew about his mother's sickness, and in the diary it notes that she's been suffering from a discomfort in her left side of her body for several years already. On the day Yoriichi first began his training, Michikatsu asked him how he knew where to strike the instructor. Yoriichi then replied that if he looked very closely, he can see the veins and the muscles in the instructor's body, and it was easy to understand what his movements were going to be by reading the muscles and veins. Michikatsu was confused, but later came to the understanding that Yoriichi had an ability that allowed him to see into people. So as Michikatsu reads his mother's diary, he reads left side over and over and comes to the realization Yoriichi wasn't clinging to his mother's side out of weakness. He was supporting her because of her sickness making her weak. At that moment, I heard the sounds of my body searing with envy. I despised the prodigy known as Yoriichi from the bottom of my heart. Michikatsu was so disturbed on the fact that he was unaware and unable to help his mother. He blamed his brother for having an ability that he didn't. And that is the childhood of Michikatsu and Yoriichi Sugikuni. Now let's move on to the adulthood. Michikatsu was given a life that he did not deserve. Instead of being sent away to the monk's temple, he lived 10 years still training to become a samurai. Things were incredibly peaceful for Michikatsu. He even had a wife and kid. But unfortunately, Michikatsu was attacked by a group of demons and lost many comrades. But luckily, to save his ass was his brother Yoriichi. Michikatsu quickly noted that Yoriichi's swordplay was drastically improved from when he was a child. The moment Michikatsu locked eyes with Yoriichi, the jealousy and envy came back. Or as Michikatsu puts it, his tranquil days were over, which is just another word to say like his days of being calm or his days at peace came to an end. Yoriichi then gives Michikatsu an apology for arriving late and not being able to save his fallen comrades. But instead of looking up to his brother and admiring the fact that his life was saved by him, Michikatsu only saw Yoriichi for his strength and his lack of flaws, and he wanted it all for himself. So, of course, he did what any reasonable human would do and abandoned his wife and children to become a DemonSlayer. Literally. Michikatsu just wasn't as good as his brother. While Yoriichi was teaching others how to use breathing styles and even creating new techniques based off the user's strengths, Michikatsu was just another student. And thus, more breathing styles appeared and more marked slayers appeared as well, increasing their power significantly. Michikatsu, being Yoriichi's twin, was also marked. In the end, Michikatsu could not master sun breathing, so he also settled for a breathing style of his own. He then titled the Breath of the Moon, which honestly I think is a really cool name, but it's just not as cool as wind breathing like that. An idea then came to Michikatsu. If he just trained for long enough, then eventually he could get to a level where Yoriichi is at. But then the realization came. The marks on the DemonSlayers were shortening their lifespan in trade for power. So there was no future for the slayers that were marked, meaning Michikatsu had no future. The twins then have a conversation. Michikatsu talks about the pride of their era, saying that I don't think there'll be anyone that comes to surpass us. Yoriichi disagrees. He claims that him and his brother, him and the slayers, and everything they're doing now is nothing but a small fragment in all of humanity. The person that could surpass us could be a crying baby. And that's just not something Michikatsu could understand. As Michikatsu would like to go down in history and with glory, Yoriichi just wants a death where he can be satisfied with his accomplishments within life, feeling nothing but ease. Michikatsu held so much pride in the idea that his generation was going to be the only special one. So when he presented these feelings to Yoriichi, he was surprised that his brother had a different view. Optimism was an alternative reality that Michikatsu couldn't see, being so caught up in the reality that if he couldn't be number one, then maybe he can go down in history and others could interpret him to be that. Well, that's just how I see it. Michikatsu being under the idea that his brother was blessed with the strength of gods, had no other routes nor ideas on how he could ever reach or surpass that level. These are Michikatsu's quotes, so who is he saying this to? Who is Michikatsu providing the explanation of his downfall and envy to? None other than the father of all demons, Muzan Kibutsuji. Adulthood made Michikatsu's life insufferable and put a limit on his life and all of the things he wanted to accomplish. So when face to face with the devil promising to give him everything he's ever desired, Michikatsu shook his hand. And that was the end of Michikatsu's humanity, as we're now going to move forward into the last segment of this video.
私はここにいる。
From this point on to the video, I'll be referring to Michikatsu as Kokushibo, as that is now his demon name. When Michikatsu was presented with a path of power Yoriichi could never reach, he accepted and was turned into the Upper Moon 1 demon, Kokushibo. Muzan wanted to create a demon that can use breathing techniques, and Michikatsu wanted power so he can rival his brother. So when both of these ideals aligned, it was obvious what Michikatsu would choose. One night, Kokushibo was outside on a blood moon, and that's when he bumped into a man who was marked for death at 26, but standing in front of him as 80 years old, Yoriichi Sugikuni. Kokushibo was confused on how his brother could still be alive if all the slayers who were marked were meant to die before they reached 26. Why is he the special one who gets to live? Yoriichi was extremely disappointed to see Kokushibo in this demonic state, and his only words for his brother, or what was left of him, was that this was heart-wrenching. These words shook Kokushibo. He was confused on how this aged and disgusting being he used to call his brother was somehow showing him pity, as if he wasn't the superior. Kokushibo watching his brother cry for him, knowing that he went down the wrong path, was extremely confusing. Kokushibo was nothing but rude and cruel to Yoriichi, so watching these emotions not be reciprocated was confusingly touching. Kokushibo had a duty as a demon, and Yoriichi had a duty as a demon slayer, so these two could not conversate for any longer. Even with the advantage of his brother warning him of his attack, Kokushibo could not defend himself and almost was beheaded. During this fight, he's lamenting his brother for being special. Why was it always you? Taking note of how Yoriichi is still alive regardless of being marked, and how his techniques were still refined despite his age. During all of this, Kokushibo claims that he hates his brother. He hates how blessed he was and how favored his life could have been. How he was the only exception to the laws of this world. And he was certain that he was going to die with Yoriichi's next attack as well, so he waited in anticipation for Yoriichi to strike him down again. But that next attack never came. While during the fight with his twin brother, Yoriichi Sugikuni died of natural age, standing still on his 2 feet. Kokushibo then laments his brother for being undefeatable. He even takes note about how the man who turned him into a breath-wielding demon couldn't even defeat Yoriichi, and that made him feel pathetic. Face to face with his twin brother's corpse, Kokushibo slashes at it out of anger, just to find something that would hurt him just as much. He saw the gift he once gave to his brother as children, lying in his kimono. Merely seeing your face made me want to vomit. Merely hearing your voice made me want to grate my forehead with anger. But despite all of these feelings, killing his brother gave him no sense of pride. Now that Yoriichi is dead, there's nobody else that Kokushibo will lose to, ever. Ironically so, as the fight in the Infinity Castle concludes, Kokushibo is beheaded by the demon slayers that he was fighting. Fun fact, if you're a demon, being beheaded does not mean instantaneous death. You just have to be a strong demon to be able to regrow your head. And Kokushibo, being debatably the second strongest demon in history, was able to regrow his head, but it unleashed this horrible, disgusting looking form that he had no pride in. During his fight with the Slayers, Kokushibo sees his reflection in the sword, and you get to see what I'm talking about, as he claims, "What is this ugly form?" Then thinks about what Yoriichi told him, and I was correct. Yoriichi just wanted to be like Michikatsu from childhood. He wanted to be the second strongest samurai behind his big brother. So as Kokushibo thinks everything over, he has to question, is this really what I wanted? Is this truly the form of a samurai? And as he's defeated again by the Slayers in the Infinity Castle, Kokushibo, the Upper Moon 1 demon, crumbles into dust. Is this really what I lived 100 years for? Did I really not want to die so much that I turned into this hideous monster? Did I really want to get stronger so much that I ate all those humans? No. I just wanted to be like you, Yoriichi. And that was the death of the Upper Moon 1 demon Kokushibo. But if you truly want to know his last words, just restart the video. What's going on, guys? It's your boy Six, and as you can see, there's a stream layout on the screen. And we also have starting screens. This is what we're gonna see when I boot up my stream. We have be right back screens with all my socials and end screens. With, you can see at the end of the stream, and it also has all my socials. We also have a backup screen for alert boxes and the live chat. But this is going to be the one we use right now. This is the reveal I was talking about. Content. Oh my goodness. Anyways, like I was saying, content, gameplay is going to be coming out. And since I'm getting chased by this deer, I should probably transition into the big reveal I wanted to show you guys. Hey, I know you guys probably wasn't like expecting this so deliberately, but I'm here. There's going to be face cam streams now. I can look directly into your eyes. You can't look directly into mine because I have a lazy eye. Sorry about that. I hope you guys are very excited because there is going to be a live stream on this date you see right here on the screen, exactly at this time as you can see on the screen. I want all of Six Nation to be there. It's going to be a very exciting stream, and I'm glad that I can interact with you guys and you guys can see my reactions. Maybe we'll play some horror games. Who knows? Or I could play games with you guys. You, Tomioka, the GOAT. You see the video. You see it's about DemonSlayer. Come on, you got the other guy in there. You see Goku in the back. Yep. Yeah. Subscribe to the